So, honorable educator, imagine that you put your all and sacrifice everything for your loved one. However, this love turned into a one-sided love and you lost everything. What would you blame? Most of the time, people would blame their past actions on how much they've sacrificed for their loved ones. So, in the status quo, there are times where toxic relationships actually happen due to so much sacrificing, which can be manipulating to the sacrificing person. This has become a problem because this means the person who sacrificed will lose their all. So to define today's debate, love is an intangible feeling you get when you find someone you really admire and have feelings for. Sacrificing is putting a person's need and well-being ahead of your own. So this debate is about putting your loved ones ahead of your own well-being. So by sacrificing, we will not define it as something that is necessary. For example, for familial love, necessities such as providing food and shelter for your family is a necessity and a challenge you've accepted. So we believe that this doesn't count in sacrificing. Also, we're talking about an individual particularly putting their all to their loved ones. So our team's goal for today's debate is number one, to ensure relationships of families. Number two, to ensure the true meanings of love, which is not about the sacrifice. Now, I would like to challenge the opposition with a burden. What would happen if you begin to lose your own self from sacrifices? Now, moving on to the arguments. Firstly, our team's first argument is about equality. So this argument is based on the premise that a loving relationship is about equality. So a true healthy relationship means that you will not sacrifice. Instead, in order to support this argument, I'll be classifying this with two major points. A. Equality between true love. A lot of people saying sacrificing yourself for your partner or your family is more important, which just means putting others before you. However, we strongly value the relationship giving equality, and it should not be one-sided at all. This is because, like in the status quo, one-sided love usually leads to breakup due to a toxic relationship or nothing working out. B. Why this happens? Usually this happens due to others using the sacrificing person. This is because, unfortunately, humanity and society is not a cheerful and a happy place where every love has a happy ending. Rather, we can see people breaking up a lot, and some people manipulating the other so that their so-called loved ones could sacrifice for them. Now, our team's second argument, respect. So this argument is based on the premise that love should also include respect. In order to support this argument, I'll be classifying this with two major points. A. Yielding for others. Many people feel uncomfortable when they are always being held and are always being cared for. That's why some and most of the puberty teenagers get angry at their parents who love them but who want them to be perfect and do everything right, as well as helping them every second if they did something wrong. So our team believes that it is actually good to care for others and sacrifice, but it is not right to cross the line and help everything for that person. B. Can ruin the original purpose since you didn't respect the people. If you sacrifice too much for someone who has some beliefs or some religion will be angry even if you do not have that religion. It is bad for you. If you sacrifice too much, or you might feel sorry for that person, which is not good for people doing it because they don't want people to feel sorry about them. Most of them want to feel love and not feeling sorry, not feeling that they want to apologize. Now, honorable educator, in conclusion, we agree sacrificing is a way to show love, but however, we believe that the best way but that it isn't the best way, and is one of the main reasons a one-sided love and relationship could happen, which could result in a toxic relationship and a breakup. By this, I'm proud to propose and end my speech here.
Now, before moving on to our contentions, I would like to rebut and define the spectrum of sacrifice. The government side's main premise was built around they're only defending too much sacrifice, not some amount of sacrifice. They're stating that some amount of sacrifice is tolerable in their society, in their words, but sacrifice up to an extreme extent is not good. This is a wishy-washy argument and it's a contradiction. If they say that some sacrifice is okay and too much sacrifice is not okay, they are literally contradicting themselves. Secondly, there can not be something as too much sacrifice, because love is subjective as well as sacrifice. They get to choose. The love giver gets to make an informed decision of the amount of sacrifice they give. This is an individual informed choice. And some, of course, extreme boundaries, such as but not limited to physical violence, are protected by the law. Now, moving on to our team's first argument is that values of love will diminish all while making it more inaccessible. If you teach people that love is not about sacrifice, that you must be perfectly compatible in one another to have a healthy and positive relationship, love becomes extremely inaccessible for the vast majority of couples, singles. Sacrifice enables reciprocation from the romantic partner, which I'll explain further in my second argument. This can be simple things such as one person, the man in the relationship loves seafood and the other one despises it. Sacrificing for one another can even be like adjusting their small needs in order to satisfy the other individual, because this is what love is really about. Let's just say it goes, it's a small things that count. The collection of these small things is going to be a clear display of how much one loves another. On the other hand, in the government world, the only way to convey affection is by having fun together and enjoying one's company. Yes, that is great, but this makes love extremely inaccessible, as you have to find the exactly perfect person in order to have a positive relationship. Why? Because sacrifice is bad in their society, which means that in order to have a good positive relationship, they must have the exact same wants, exact same needs. It's in order to not sacrifice for one another. To elaborate further, let's imagine a parent-child relationship can even be highlighted as parents would put themselves over the child, of course, in the government side world. They will care about their individual needs over their own child. Disabling agape, unconditional love in Latin. Our world will lead to a deeper, long-term, sustainable relationships, as the couple is more likely to understand one another better. Government side wants to create a world where they have the exact same interests as one another in order to fulfill the boundaries of love. This makes love extremely uncommon in this society, as there's no one you can really find. This is not an ideal world. Moving on to our team's second argument is that it enables reciprocation and decreases values individualistic mindsets within people. If people sacrifice for one another, they will think that someone cares about me so much, and they will want to reciprocate and give it back. Mr. Speakers, what the opposite government side is proposing in their speeches is competition of not giving love, or competition of competition of not giving versus competition of giving. Which would you rather have? People where people sacrifice for one another, or where people don't care about it and just think of it as none of their business. Now, this creates a model relationship that people want to follow, creating a collective society where people understand and care for each other more. This is because now that they are able to sacrifice for one another, what will happen, Mr. Speakers? What will happen is that people will understand one another's needs better, ultimately being able to more effectively, more efficiently fulfill the hard boundaries and of love. Very proud to oppose. Thank you.
Honorable adjudicator, currently in the status quo, there are times where toxic relationships happen due to so much sacrificing, which could be manipulating. So, however, the problem of this is that because this has become a problem, because this means that the person who sacrificed would lose everything. And we believe that we want a world where we ensure relationships of families and ensure the true meanings of love, which is not just about sacrifice. So in this debate, as the DPM, I would like to rebut the previous speaker and make a defense in order to protect our team's PM, and lastly state our team's last argument. So before I go into our team's last argument, I would like to rebut the previous speaker. So they talked about how adjusting their small needs is that it is love. However, this is wrong because we believe that love is always not a small need. We strongly believe that it is unnecessary because of those small sacrifices. It will stack and stack, and ultimately it is going to hurt one another and make them lose everything. So now going on to the defenses. No, thank you, please. They also rebutted our team's prime minister, talking about how it is an individual choice. However, yes, we believe that this is an individual choice, but misunderstood this because the motion stated that we oppose the sacrifice in love, which means that we never said we would ban the sacrifice of love. So now that I have prove that their case does not stand, I would like to go into our team's last argument. So our team's last argument is about self-esteem and self-care. Honorable adjudicator, in a relationship, we value it to be healthy and not toxic, like the side opposition is trying to say. We believe that in a healthy relationship, you should be respected as well. And as the other like our team's PM has stated before, stated before too. So before I go into our team's argument, I would like to define and compare love and sacrifice. So love is an intangible feelings you get when you find someone you really admire and have feelings for. And sacrificing is putting a person need and well-being ahead of your own. So this debate is about putting your loved ones ahead of your own well-being. So by sacrificing, we will not define it as that it is necessary. We strongly believe that before sacrificing in a relationship, you should be able to have a higher self-esteem and a higher self-care and put yourself before your loved ones. So today in this argument, I would like to explain why sacrificing in particular relationships causes lack of self-esteem and self-love. So in sacrificing, like I have defined in my previous speech before, we believe that sacrificing is unnecessary. We strongly believe that true love is characterized by shared experiences, empathy, and emotional support, rather than constant exchanges of just sacrifices. Loving oneself is essential for healthy relationships, and sacrificing one's own well-being or neglecting self-care in the name of love can only lead to feelings of burnout. Prioritizing the self-love and self-care allows individuals to show their emotions fully in their relationships without sacrificing their own happiness or just compromising their mental and emotional health. We strongly believe that if someone starts caring for someone, but only caring for one another, but only just themselves, which is very unstabilized, our team believes that they are not able to reach their goals. We believe that sacrificing is unnecessary, and if this happens, it will only lower people's self-love and self-esteem. So by this, our team's last argument stands. So in conclusion, honorable adjudicator, we have stated a clear rebuttal and a defense, proving that their case does not stand, and we finalized our team's last argument, which was self-esteem and self-care. So by this, we strongly believe that we are able to take this debate home. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, let us begin with the rebuttal first. So the proposition said that while there will be too much sacrifice, which will hurt both of the relationship. However, we disagree to that because too much sacrifice, while too much sacrifice is concerning, the degree of sacrifice is already decided by the willingness of person and how much capability can person do. And so it's very subjective. There is no typical line of how much sacrifice is very concerning and it's harmful to each other. Also, we have when there is too much of sacrifice happening, such as enduring the physical abuse, etc., then we already have legal systems that can prevent those harms, and we can prevent all those. Okay, then moving on to rebuttals, so the opposition and the proposition that people would lose everything because of sacrifices. However, we believe that this does not stand, because how would the relationship lose everything if they are actually caring for each other, if they're actually sacrificing themselves to make their relationship as whole better? Plus, if it's too much, then we like you mentioned before, each individual will going to decide how much that is too much, and if they're capable to do it, still they're going to do it. Moving on, the final argument of the proposition was about taking care of each other, and being empathetic is actually better. However, what they're saying is basically they're saying that no sacrifices is needed, and it's basically promoting extreme selfishness. However, this is very short term, and it is only for fun oriented. While to be perfect relationship, they need perfect match and heavenly made match, which is extremely unlikely and unrealistic in this situation. Also, this is also explained by our leader of opposition speech. Also,
Yes.
no, thank you. If they actually care for each other, then sacrifice is also inevitable, because how can they not act and only care about each other? Moving on to our team's third contention, which is wider public discourse. Mr. Speaker, in the status quo, people are finding love in people who can sacrifice each other, who can emotionally connect and put themselves in situations where they don't prefer. This is the ideal situation where people are happy with their loved ones. Mr. Speaker, we call this having a wide public discourse. What this means is that people are more likely to find and call each other loving each other. In the proposition scenario where every love is measured without sacrifice, like how fun they are, the public discourse is very narrow. The definition of love in the government's case needs a lot of factors such as wealth, height, good-looking physics, good matching personality, etc. This is very contrasting to the opposition scenario where all it takes to find life's love that goes for a long time and can be sustained for a long term is just lots of sacrifice and care for each other. This can bring very practical results and impacts because people are finding their love so much quickly and so much more likely. The majority of society will feel happy, unlike the propositions world where there are so many people wanting to date wealthy and tall men while there are not many in reality. For example, in our world, there would be many couples who are sacrificing their own preferences, whether it is major or not. Contrasting to that, the government world has countless people who are in despair, failing to find someone who is perfect for them. This would create frustration with the singles, making it impossible to people to feel biological emotions of love. Also, for example, like in our situation, there is a more emotional bond and more sustainable emotional bond, which is very important because there is not much problem to make. If there are problems and if there are problems between the two people's relationship, they can sacrifice each other, understand each other's opinions, and the two couples can eventually find a way to solve this or understand each other. However, in the proposition situation, all it matters is how fun they are. All it matters is how much they're matching. And they don't want to sacrifice each other. It's none of their business. All of their problems is their own stuff, so it's very individualistic. So we believe that we believe that the proposition case does not stand, and I'm very proud to oppose. Thank you.
An educator, nowadays sacrificing for someone has been happening every day, and it is happening even as we debate in here. So I am, well, as you define puberty children, but and if you are my mom sacrificed to me a lot and helps me a lot, I often find me very annoyed, and I often find me screaming to mom. So I believe that sacrificing too much, as our team has been explaining, is not good. So moving on to our team's defense, our team's first defense today, the other team has been like describing our word as it'll be a sad word since no one's sacrificing, but our team believes that it's actually not, and it'll be actually more happier word since, as I explained, since there are no sacrificing for their, well, even children, I think there will be no conflicts between families and conflict between the lovers. So I don't feel that it'll happen. And the opposition team keeps emphasizing that everyone will care, but I think it's very ideal. There will be conflicts well, most of them they have conflicts, and there will be conflicts anyways, or eventually there will be conflicts. So I don't think everyone caring is ideal in this world. Now, since I defended our team and since I did the intro, I'll move on to our team's clashes. Our team has total in 2 clashes, and our team's first clash is our word versus their word. In our word, it is women's situation, while the other team's word, it's everyone's caring word. So our team has found a different perspective in here. Their word only sees the third party rather than the lovers because lovers can actually fight with each other, but they are thinking of an ideal place where nobody's like fighting, and our team thinks that it's ideal. Whether in our words, since it's like women's situation, since and we proved this in our team's second argument, there can be conflicts because there are too much sacrifices, and our team believes that, and I also believe that it is a realistic choice. So in this clash, we have like completely take this clash home because they had one stakeholders and they only thought of that, but we had both stakeholders and we both take care of them. Now I'll be moving on to our team's second clash, which is do not cross the line versus recognize and caring couples each other. What I am thinking about this debate is that opposition, like the other team, is keep thinking about like everyone's caring, but I don't think like that. I believe that people will eventually fight, as I keep mentioning, and there will be you have to you don't have to like cross the line. And if you cross the line, there will be like more fights than we have predicted, right? So our team believes that um do not cross the line. The lover should not cross the line. So in this clash, we also have been able to take this clash home because like we have been thinking about the like um bad outcome of this crossing the line, while the other team keeps like assuming and keeps thinking whether or not they would like they're not fight. So our team believes that today our team took these two clashes home because we both think of our stakeholders and we are more or well realistic. Thank you for listening, and I hope you vote for team government.
Now, the government's argument may seem plausible at first glance, yet we, the opposition, have to remind you that their arguments were by no means sufficient enough. Now, in today's debate, there were two main clashes being, first, which world has the freedom to love? And second, which would have a long-term love? Now, I would like to go, to our, continue our first question. Which world has the freedom to love? Now, the government kept on saying that they think that sacrifice is okay and too much sacrifice is too bad. And then if you cross the line, they will create fights and problems. Now, first, they did not define what the actual line is, but let's say that the line is a line of sacrifice. Now, but we think that the line is chosen by the individuals, not what you think and not what you believe and not what the government side makes. It's the individual choice to do what kind of sacrifice they want to do. Now, what our side is keep on talking about is that love is about sacrifice and giving, and love is also subjective, yet sacrifice as well. Now, we have kept constantly talking about how they are likely to give the sacrifice back as sacrifice is reciprocal. However, they're not engaging to this point. Now, what we think that reciprocal love will do is that it will decrease the individualism and make more happier and happier couples. Now, in the opposition side, we can make anything love. Now, we can express better towards the lover because by showing what we give, it itself expresses. It is the best way to express your love, and the sacrificer, they're the ones choosing what to give. Now, if you say it's too extreme, no, it fits the person who they're giving. And since love is subjective, we also think that there's no limitation that we should make all these people have. Now, what the government side will do is that there will be a public discourse. Now, about love. Now, they said that they can't sacrifice time, property. They can't sacrifice desire, hope. Why not? They can. And to show their love and to show what they desire. What the government side cannot do. Their love will be shallow and superficial, and their world is also fun driven. Now, all the couples have to fit just by themselves. Now, this is the worst environment for people to love each other and express their own love. Why? Because they can't sacrifice, which I'm going to talk about in my second class. Now, which house would have a long-term love? Now, the government side kept on talking about what? They will lose everything. They will lose the true meaning of love. Now, how do you lose everything and every kind of property if you actually truly love and constantly give? Now, they're saying that altruistic and loving behavior makes people lose stuff in their life. Now, we constantly talk about reciprocal love, and they're not understanding our argument. Now, what they have also said that sacrifice makes high self-love esteem, and we would like to rebut this by saying that that's how you actually love a person. Now, another rebuttal we can do is that they said that if we get that support. Now, if you think that giving support is if they said that giving support is actual love, not sacrificing, but this is mutually exclusive. Our side also cares. Our side can give the love that the government wants, but what they can't do is to sacrifice. Now, what we're saying to sacrifice is that this is sustainable love, and constant sacrifice can show your affection. Sacrifice is an essential tool to apologize, making up, and reminding the love you give to the lover. Now, This will continue and sustain the hydration of love, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, we win this debate. Why? Because we win two clashes which are crucial to win. Thank you. And the motion must fall. Thank you. Starting with the government side's best case scenario, we would like to review this. Firstly, the government side's best case scenario would be where there's too much sacrifice and where they will lose everything. But firstly, who decides it? Freedom of autonomy. They get to choose whether or not how much sacrifice they give because love is subjective. The love giver is the one that is actually choosing how much sacrifice they want to give to the other person, and it is an informed choice. For example, let me give an example of this situation. For example, one person may consider moving to another region, another region to live with that partner. However, one may think that's a stepping stone and an advancement and making their relationship much more deep. However, another person may not feel comfortable with it. If they don't feel comfortable doing it, then don't do it. This is because the love giver's point of view is different from other people, making love subjective, and there's no objective standard to it. Now, Mr. Speaker, don't get us wrong. We're not going to allow individuals to endure and keep silence about sacrifices they're making when it comes to physical or sexual assault, because that is against the law. So what the opposition side wants is that there is some amount of there's this amount of spectrum where the individual gets to choose, but once it reaches to this extreme levels, the law must get involved. Moving on to the world comparison. The world comparison is that in government world, that if you give love to somebody, then you're an idiot because you might lose everything. That's the government side's logic. However, they also want to create a society where two partners in a romantic relationship where they have a competition of not sacrificing. In world is that great. They'll just weaken their relationship, diminishing it even further. This would create an individualistic and selfish world where the only thing these people care about is fun. Moreover, this governance world will make it extremely inaccessible to feel true love, as they need to be fallen angels from heaven to meet one another, destined, hit by Cupid's arrow, so that in order to be a perfect match. They will create they're creating a narrow definition, making it extremely inaccessible for people to feel love. Moreover, government world would completely abolish agape, unconditional love in Latin. This is extremely harmful for especially parent and child relationship, as it's the parents' legal and biological duty to care for their child, creating a more sustainable, long, and healthier relationship. In opposition world, there will be mutual sacrifice, because if someone gives you a sacrifice and conveys their affection to you, then you want to give it back to them. That's we on the opposition world will create a wider definition of love, making love more accessible for all individuals in society, creating a better and more idealistic world. Very proud to oppose. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, none of the speakers in opposition replied to the burden we've given at the start of the debate. So this is one of the analysis I've made by an overview of today's debate. As the final speaker of Team Government, I'll be talking about the flaws Team Opposition has made and explain how our team dealt with it, leading to us taking the debate home. Now, looking at what each team valued the most. Now, Team Opposition mostly valued the small sacrifices and how they do not hurt, and that how individuals have a choice because they are able to handle it. However, Aussie government is talking about big sacrifices, like the PM has stated in the definition. Necessities, which are small sacrifices, are not what we are talking about in our team's case. In our team's case, so they did not listen to our case and for speech. Now, on the other hand, we value the long-term relationship of love. In the opposition's leader's speech, they talked about how ours is short-term. However, that is the opposite. Like our PM has stated, we value the long-term relationship. So to prove why our case is long-term, opposed to the opposition, let's say an individual doesn't sacrifice their all, and they all equally do it. Consequently, there will be a non-sided love. Now, the opposition would be short-term because let's look at a one-sided love. The reason why our team or our whole team is talking about one-sided love is because one-sided love is most of the time from sacrificing, which the opposition doesn't seem to understand and get. Now, moving on to the analysis of today's debate. Team Opposition stated that it's the individual's choice and freedom. However, this shows that they did not properly understand the debate because, like our DPM has rebutted, we will not ban sacrificing love since it takes the freedom of the other. Rather, we believe that sacrificing is unnecessary and will actually put a burden into their relationship. Also, team opposition didn't respond to the burden we gave them, which was what would happen if you begin to lose yourself from sacrificing, which means they didn't have a clear response, and that it proves that they couldn't respond to our case, and proving sacrifices within love could manage to have the individual lose their own self. Now, looking at the weak points team opposition has made. Team opposition stated about adjusting their small needs and how that is also love. However, our DPM has clearly mentioned that because of small sacrifices, it will stack ultimately, and she also talked about how love is a small need. Now, Mr. Speaker, I've now identified the weak points team opposition has made, and I've identified the analysis and what each team valued the most, and how team opposition's world will not be long term and instead a short term contrasted to our case. Now, as the last speaker of government, I am hereby proud to propose and end my speech here. Thank you.